Hey guys, welcome to True Story Sunday. In 2005, I was backpacking across Central America. Together, Mitch and I, we flew to Costa Rica and we backpacked together to Guatemala, where he had to fly home for school, and I finished the rest of the trip by myself. So I was somewhere in Mexico when Hurricane Katrina slammed into Louisiana and did all sorts of, I think I just looked it up, it was like $108 billion worth of damage was done by that one hurricane. And things like that were the exact reason that I joined the National Guard. I wanted to be in a position where I had some responsibility and authority to go and help in situations like that. But I was in Mexico. And so I remember when I heard about the storm and just how, you hear about hurricanes all the time, but then you start hearing more about just how horrible this was and all the damage it caused. And so I went to an internet cafe and I emailed my first sergeant and I was like, dude, if you guys are going, my unit, we seem to work with the Louisiana National Guard quite a bit. Like in Honduras, we worked with them in Honduras, and they had some of their soldiers attached to our unit while we were in Honduras once. So I thought, we kind of have a relationship with Louisiana, we might go. So I emailed them and I said, hey, if you guys are gonna go, don't go without me, man. Give me some heads up and I'll fly home to Utah or cut the lock off of my locker and get all my gear and have someone else bring it, and I'll meet you in Louisiana as fast as I can get there. I'll get there. And so he said he'd keep me posted, and nothing, I'd never heard anything back from him about it. But so I just kept traveling, like I was traveling. Wasn't in any hurry, and I was home for about a week. When I finally got home, I was home for a week, and my unit was activated to go to Louisiana. So it's perfect timing. We spent most of our time in a small town called Abbeville. Abbey something. It was called Abbeville. And we lived on the tennis courts. We set up our tents on the tennis courts of a Boys and Girls Club there. And that's where we lived. And most of, we were there about 2 months after the storm had hit. The flooding was pretty much gone. We were basically there to clean up the mess that the storm had left. And we spent a lot of times in mostly public areas, because personal homes, people's homes that were destroyed, they had to be evaluated by FEMA and insurance companies and all this other stuff. There's all this red tape in the way of us going and helping individuals. So we cleaned up schools and parks and one little community place where they had church. They held church services sometimes, and it was a blast. I had so much fun there. Part of our jobs there was to at this Boys and Girls Club. It was filled with refugees. People who had their homes destroyed, and they were on air mattresses and cots, and part of me was a little bit confused about why they were still there, because it was like 2 months. It had been 2 months. I was like, so why don't you go back to your house and clean it up? The sun is shining. And they're like, oh well, it's pretty messed up. And I think some of them were just really lazy people who didn't want to, they were being fed. They had a place to live and they were being fed, and it was like, why would I go anywhere else? I've got it pretty good here. One woman, I was talking to her and I said, well, where are you from? I had a map and I was like, where are you from? And she's like, oh, I'm from Iraq. I'm from Iraq. And I couldn't figure out what she was saying, because she had an accent. Her Louisiana accent was so strong that I just had no idea what she was trying to tell me. And later we were driving around and we drove past a town called Erath. For some reason, I at the time I thought it was Earth. I found on I misread it, so I guess I'm as big of a dummy as she is. But I thought I remember laughing that she was not able to, because when she was trying to tell me what it was, I said, "Well, spell it for me," and she goes, "I don't know how." She could. So then I thought it was Earth. So I remember thinking it was very funny that she did not know how to pronounce or spell the name of her city or the planet that she lived on. I thought that was funny. But I just looked at it before I started doing this, because I was trying to remember the name of the city where we stayed, and it was Erath. So she wasn't as dumb as I thought. But we'd have to pull like guard duty at night, because there was people. Those people got a lot of money from FEMA, and there were some people there that would come around and try to like take advantage of them. And this was kind of our job to keep people away, keep people who didn't live there away, and also to you know, make sure there were no fights or no alcohol or drugs in there. We actually threw a guy out once because he was drinking out back. But there was a lot of really good people there. I remember some of the people who helped out the most were the Scientologists, and they would have these big groups of Scientologists come, and oh man, I should not have come in here. These big groups of Scientologists would come, and they would take care of the refugees, and they would bring food for them. And I only knew, everything I knew about Scientology was from the South Park episode. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk to these guys and see what they're all about. And so I asked one guy one little question. Like, he had all these pamphlets, and I'm like, hey, which one of these can I take that gives me a basic summary of your religion? And then they were on me, man. Oh, take this, take them all, just take them all. I'm like, well, I don't want all of them, I just want to read one, man. Just tell me which one I should read. So they forced me to take them all, and then they sat me and my friend Ashby down, and they did something called a touch assist. That's what it was called, a touch assist. So they sit you in these chairs, and they explain, okay, now I'm going to touch you with my finger, and I'm not going to touch your private parts or anything, but I'm just going to touch you with my finger, and I'll ask you, can you feel my finger? And then when you say yes, then I'll move to the next point. So I'm like, okay, so we sit down, you're supposed to close your eyes and sit there in this chair, and this guy, you know, touches you on the hand. Can you feel my finger? Yes. And then he moves somewhere else. He touches your elbow. Can you feel my finger? And and I thought it was so weird that I was like, please let this be over. You know, you're in a room full of people, and they're all looking at you being touched by this guy. So I started saying everything really fast, because I wanted it to just be over with. And so he was going, can you feel my finger? Can you feel my finger? Can you feel my finger? And I'm going, yes, 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 yes. Just get it over with, man. And then I started laughing, and he goes, oh, what happened there? Did you feel something good there? And I was like, I just think this is ridiculous, and it's kind of making me laugh a little bit. Okay, well, we'll keep going then. And finally I hear Ashby, who this is happening to him next to me, say, oh yeah, I felt pretty good. And he's like, okay, we're done. And so as soon as I heard that, like, okay, that's how you end this thing, I was like, yeah, you know, I feel pretty good too. So then they let us go. But the weird thing was, this guy had a pretty strong accent too. He was from Louisiana. And when he was saying, can you feel my finger, can you feel my finger, like with his accent, it started to sound to me like he was saying, can you feel my finger? Can you feel my finger? Can you feel my finger? And so I like peeked, you know, opened my eye just a tiny bit, like, if you're touching me with your finger, you're gonna have problems, amigo. So yeah, the Scientologists, they were really excited to have someone that was even a tiny bit interested in what they were talking about. And I got totally off subject with the Scientology thing. I wanted to talk more about Hurricane Katrina, but I'm short on time, and I just want to get this uploaded, so we'll call this the Scientology episode of True Story Sunday. That was my experience with Scientologists at the evacuee shelter in Abbeville, at the Boys and Girls Club in Abbeville. But I want to tell some more stories about Katrina, because I had a lot of fun there, and some cool stuff happened. But I'll have to save that for another week, maybe next week. I don't know. Ride safe, travel far, do it soon, everyone.